So Christie Cream has apparently gotten dumped by his boyfriend in New Hampshire, Governor Chris Sununu, very popular centrist Republican from New England, who basically said, you know what, Nikki Haley's the hotter bag to go for instead of Chris Christie, which is to say, like, obviously, against a fight, against a line, maybe a dog has a better chance than a fucking rat. And so that's where we're at with Chris Christie Cream. And so he's seething that he got dumped by Chris Sununu, who he's been glazing like a Krispy Kreme donut. I mean, it's kind of sad. All right, so this article is a little bit duplicitous. As we can really see, Andrew Howard, the author, says Chris Christie punches back at Sununu. First of all, he can't physically do that, so I mean, it's automatically fake news. But I'll basically entertain this. I remember when Chris used to care about Donald Trump. I mean, really, isn't this like the 13-year-old ex-girlfriend? Like, "Oh, Jake in the 8th grade didn't think about me, bro. Really? Okay, come on." So Chris Sununu cooking him in this quote. The New Hampshire governor said on Sunday he called Christie a friend before adding that he thinks that the former New Jersey governor's 2024 bid is an absolute dead end. Now, a genius could have pointed this out, a meth addict, laced with fentanyl. This guy could have figured it out. The guy licking his fentanyl off of the Jersey barriers, okay, off the highway. I mean, this is simply the most obvious thing. Obviously, a guy with a 2% polling average is probably not going to do well when he can't find his way out of a Golden Corral. Not even a salad bar, of course, it's like the fondue bar. So basically, this guy's like fat as hell. Like I said, it's a little bit of a dead horse or a bloated whale. Yeah. So the narwhal over here that you're looking at on the screen with, this guy apparently is going to have a clip excoriating Chris Christie, or Chris Sununu, mind you, for being a traitor. So for starters, I mean, just look at the visage right now. I mean, this is just looking disgusting. Okay.
Since Chris started to work for Nikki Haley and become an employee of Nikki Haley, it's not the same Chris Sununu anymore. Chris Sununu, as you'll recall, was one of the most vocal Donald Trump critics in this country. In fact, he went to one.
Wait, so here's the angle. So he endorses somebody who's anti-Trump in Nikki Haley, but that's not anti-Trump enough because that's his whole gimmick, right? So like when you think about it, Chris Christie is a monolith of gluttony. He can only focus on food. So when it comes to politics, he can only focus on eating Donald Trump. I mean, this is just ankle biting at the succinct way. I think that Donald Trump may have a case of Nutella ankles because this nigga wants to eat all of it. It's disgusting. It's really just an inappropriate thing to do. And so now he's saying that Chris Sununu, the better one, the not obese one, this guy who's not going to have a stroke in a year because he's not fat. So Chris Sununu is apparently betraying his principles of being anti-Trump, which by any margin is just a loser thing to do. Your whole principle as a governor of some state in a country is whether or not you hate the former president of said country, and it's somehow a logical idea. I mean, that's just ridiculous.
One of those big media events in Washington, D.C., and used incredible obscenities that I can't repeat on the air here to describe what he thought of Donald Trump's mental state, if you remember. This is a guy who has said Donald Trump is unfit, all things that his candidate is unwilling to say. Chris Sununu has said that the state should decide abortions. Nikki Haley's in favor of a 6-week ban. He's abandoned that.
Okay, so he's going on liberal causes, saying, "Oh, he's not liberal enough." Okay, great.
That as well. I mean, the shame of this is that Chris has now abandoned his principles in order to try to, get himself some political favor inside of his own state.
What's wrong with that? That's perfect. This is how weak sauce politicians are nowadays, where their political theater is at such a low level that a guy in college can just call it out for what it is easily. And it's like, okay, so at this point, you're talking about a guy who's saying, oh, this governor is selling out his political ideals, which is really just like the nomination within the same party, which is like the same ideology, basically. Oh, so he's going from a moderate Republican to a slightly less moderate Republican nominee. And then what? That he's betraying his state? Why? So for political favors in the state? Well, who does that benefit? The fucking state, the constituency, God forbid. And so when you're talking about a New England governor that's actually popular, unlike the former Republican governor of New Jersey, Chris Christie, who left in 2018 as a disgrace with super low approval ratings, you have a guy in Chris Sununu who's actually doing right by state, even though he sucks by my opinion, but at least he knows which loser to back. He knows who has going to have a better time. If you're picking a loser who's going to fight against Goliath, I'll go for David instead of like some obese paraplegic on a mobility scooter at the Walmart aisle 16, which is Chris Christie Cream. And so honestly, this is just pathetic. Okay, so this is Chris Sununu just stabbing Chris Christie in the back, which, it has to be a long blade to like really get to any bone. But
no, it's look. Chris is a good guy. He's a smart guy. He's working hard. I get it. He's frustrated, and you have to remind all these candidates and Chris knows when he got into the race, it was a long shot for all of them. It really was. Everyone knew we had to consolidate around one candidate. Chris has done a very good job speaking the truth on Trump, as a lot of us have. And I think there's an opportunity. We're not saying, hey, Chris, go, get out of the race and disappear. I think a lot of folks are understanding Chris has an opportunity to be kind of the hero here. Not just bow out gracefully, but help consolidate this race, help do the right thing.
How the fuck is that even possible? I'm not asking you Like, he basically says, oh, we can only beat Trump if there's only one other candidate against him. But also, I'm not asking you to quit the race. I mean, yes, you fucking are. What? It's like saying, yeah, I can only sleep with one other person in this room, but I'm not asking you to leave the bedroom. It's like, yes, you are. What the fuck? Are you kidding me?
Help deliver Trump that loss in New Hampshire that we all know is very possible. We just don't want his 5 or 6%, which isn't really going to go much higher than that, to be the difference maker and allow Trump to win, knowing that those voters can, should, and I think will consolidate around Nikki Haley. So
Voice cracked at like 50. Consolidate.
Nikki has the momentum. Her numbers are surging. She's over 30% in almost all the polls right now. No one thought she could even get this close, and she's the only one working it. I mean, this morning we were right there in Portsmouth. 7 a.m., she's out there with me meeting with fishermen, talking about their issues and the overregulation and how this affects their families and their ability to drive economic success here in New Hampshire. She's doing the coffee shops. She's doing the town halls. She's doing retail politics the way it's supposed to be done, and that's why the numbers are moving. Chris has done a great job, but again, he's kind of hit that limit. It's not going to go any higher, and now it's just a time to consolidate.
Brutal. You've hit your ceiling, bud. That's tough, man. Yikes. So if we look at the article right here, it says that since Chris Sununu started to work for Nikki Haley and became an employee of Nikki Haley, it's not the same Chris Sununu anymore. Christie told Anderson Cooper, who takes it in the pooper. Anyway, so basically what we're seeing here is that Chris Sununu is like the ex-boyfriend. Oh my God, he's like not the same anymore. And like ever since he's like with Stacey, it's like so bad for me. And like I'm crying and like I'm writing on my Trapper Keeper because like he's such a jerk. That's literally Krispy Kreme, Christie. It's like insane, man. The guy's 55 and he's talking like a schoolgirl. And now he's being encouraged by Sununu as saying you can help deliver the loss to Trump by endorsing Haley. And that he just wants to stay relevant. And we all want him to stay relevant, this pudgy motherfucker. And I'm adding a little bit to the quote, and not to fall into obscurity, because if he falls into obscurity, he might crack the whole paradigm and cause a black hole. Anyway, Sununu had told this to the reporters, with my added verbiage. He has a chance, end quote, to come in and be a hero to put Nikki Haley on top. Well, there it is. So Chris Christie's down bad. It's pathetic. You're a grown man. Just drop out. I don't know what the hell he's doing. He's going to drive himself into debt, campaign debt, over a campaign that won't go into anywhere. And it's like starting a car with him in it. It's just not going to go anywhere. So unless you're going downhill, like in a neutral setting off a slope, which, I mean, that's the campaign. That's what you're in for. And so you're going to run up a debt, obviously the culinary expenses, the bills for food. This guy, probably $500 a fucking pop. I mean, it's crazy, yeah? So think about this guy, 7 meals a day, $500 each. You're spending like $4,000 a fucking day, yeah? So it's tough out there. Nikki Haley W like usual. Obviously, Trump's going to smack her back into place. And it's kind of tough. And, getting dumped like this over the internet is a brutal thing for a lot of people. But what's worse is that obviously there's millions of people watching, millions of dollars of debt. So, anybody else that's like witnessing this kind of feels better about themselves. So, yeah, Trump bros, we're back. Obviously, this is super easy. Republican dub. Chris Christie is a liberal. He sucks. Relative to everybody, he hugged Obama. We're never going to get that out of our psyche. He hugged Obama. Disgusting. Imagine. Jesus Christ. See y'all in the next video. Adios.